Hey everyone, just going live a little bit early to get people time to get in here. I hope we have some more people to join us so that we can talk about sins of our mother. How is everyone? If you're here, give me a message so that I know you're here. I already saw Ron's. Everybody, a few minutes. Hey Ron, how are you? Can everybody hear me okay? Hey Kat, can everybody hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up or something if you can hear. Awesome. Well, all right. Just a couple people here, but we'll go ahead and get started. Today, we're talking about the Netflix limited series on Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, Sins of Our Mother. Who here has seen it already? I watched it, the entire series, twice over the weekend, and it's only about 3 episodes, about 3.5 hours total time. So I did watch it once on Friday evening and then once again on Sunday morning. So I wanted to watch it and ingest as much of it as possible so I could talk about it here with you guys and ladies, guys and gals. Hey everyone. Hey PG. Well, Ron, you watched it 4 times. Overall, Ron, what did you think about it? Good, not good, kind of neutral? What was your thoughts on it? Oh no, Kat, I'm so sorry. I hate when that happens. I watched it once on I watched it once on our big TV, and then I watched it. Hey, yes, Pam, I do remember. I watched part of it on the computer. I watched some of it on the computer, and then I watched the other on our big TV. So good, but Ron, is that what you think? Well, all right. I'm just going to start talking about my thoughts on it, and then I will kind of get into it. First of all, I thought it was good. Um, I do wonder about the 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 direction of it. Lots of times with documentaries, there's two types of documentaries. There's truly objective one where they just run camera and let things happen as they were. For example, there is a documentary called Kidnapped for Christ about conversion therapy camps that actually go in and take kids, of course, with the consent of their parents, and then take them away. And there was a documentary about that, about one of those in Costa Rica that was just a turn on the camera and let it play out with no opinion inserted, whatever. And then there's other types of documentaries, which is the majority of them, that there's already a slant to the filmmakers, and they try to gear everything to that. Super Size Me. That was obviously an anti-McDonald's hit piece in a way. Not being an advocate for McDonald's, but that's how it was geared. So there's two types, and so being that a lot of this was based off of Colby and Kelsey, I believe is his wife's is former ex-wife. I think they're separated. name. It made me wonder about the politics behind it. For example, the whole assault charges that were suddenly dropped within 48 hours of them being, dealt. It makes me wonder if those were really dropped because his ex-wife changed her mind, or they decided there was really nothing going on, or it was dropped because they knew this docuseries, which relied heavily on them coming out. So I do wonder about little things like that. But anyway, I agree with Ron. I did figure out things that did see things that I was unaware of. The additional body cam, I'll start with the first one. The additional body cam footage of Charles Vallow's encounter with the Chandler PD, where he was telling them about when Lori had his Jeep removed from the airport, taking everything he owned and taking it away. That really got to me. Also hearing from members of the family and other people that knew more about it, that was interesting. Like we've heard from Janice and Summer before, but I think this was a lot more. That is Lori Vallow's mother and her youngest sister. We've heard from them before, but I think they were very candid in this interview. We actually heard from the father a little bit, which I don't think we've really heard from him. And also the inclusion of Adam Cox, the other brother, the other Cox brother, Vallow brother, however you want to construe that, was very interesting as well, the inclusion. But I was shocked at a lot of what the documentary brought out. And I will do a full-on review like I do for my movie reviews, but today I just want to talk about it. I went into the docu-series with one opinion, that Lori Vallow was the mastermind behind everything, and she's 𝐶𝐞𝐭'𝐬, and she's the reason we're here today. After the docuseries and after seeing it twice and then going back and looking at other sources after seeing the documentary, I have slightly altered my opinion there. I had once said that I thought Daybell was just kind of a useful idiot in all of this, that Lori was the mastermind and she had taken his writings and kind of blown them out and caused all of this. I really now believe that they have equal part in it. I think it was a perfect storm of crazy when the two of them met, because after watching this and listening to the family, I really think something happened to Lori after her marriage to Joe Ryan was dissolved. I think that was the closest at the time they'd ever gotten to a true family. I think even, Colby said that. And then what happened with Joe happened when he kind of turned against Colby, kind of turned against some of the kids. There were some abuse charges. I think something in Lori snapped, because when you heard her talking about wanting to kill him, and anybody would understand a mother's rage as far as that goes. But I think something turned. That's when the worm turned. And I think she became much more doom and gloom. And I think that's when her interest in the LDS end times and just end times in general spiked. And then and it was just delusion. And then she became a prepper. And that's when she got involved with preparing a people and a vow. And then she met 𝐻𝐿 Daybell, who is absolutely a god in his own mind. He had taken the Mormon religion and he twisted it and basically wrote his own religion. His books, which I have read and reviewed and summarized on my channel. If you haven't seen those, I got plenty of playlists. He wrote his own religion. And when she met him, I think they were just instantly attracted to each other. And here we are. I think if they had not met each other, that most likely this would not have happened. And I have to agree with Pamela. They were definitely fire and gasoline, for sure. Kat, did they talk about weird relationship between Lori and Alex? They touched on it, in my opinion. They basically alluded to the fact that it was a very loving relationship, not in a incestual way, but that Alex somehow felt like he was Lori's protector and almost was like her hitman. I mean, they literally said that he was the hitman. So kind of like, the angel Gabriel or the angel Michael, that was him. And so, yeah, it was a very, very strange relationship. Also, I really got to see what a special person Tylee was. She was just exuberant of joy and life, and it just makes me feel that loss even more because it really showed what a wonderful person she was. And it also made me even angrier at some of the key other players like Melanie Gibb and David Warwick. They know that they just sat on vital information and didn't come forward. And because I do stand by my original take that there was some sort of power struggle there between Lori, Chad, and David, Melanie for control of that little mini religion. And Chad and Lori won out. And then, of course, we have David and Melanie exiled, so to speak, kind of like Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. And so that's how I kind of look at that. But they still hold equal parts to it because they could have stopped it. They could have stopped it at any time. And Ron, some serious manipulation between Lori and Alex. Yes, I believe Lori was absolutely manipulating him. I believe she was manipulating a lot of people. Do I think Alex was 100% innocent? No. I think he kind of knew. He knew what was going on, and he bought into it. I believe he is the one that laid his hands on both these children and ended their life. I just, there's no way around that. There's no way around that at all. And when you see the financial incentives they both had to both get rid of Charles and then to get rid of Tammy, there's also that coming into play. I think the one thing that was missing was Chad's children, but I think they're probably going to take the same stand they took when they interviewed with 2020 earlier on, that they still support their father. So as delusional as that may be in a way, I really can't wrong them for that either, because they love their dad. Their mom's gone, they have their dad, and that's all they have. So I think it flowed really well. It reminded me a lot of the other documentary they did on the Watts murders, which was Murder Next Door, American Family. A lot of information that had been withheld from the public that was now brought out in the form of texts and emails. And another thing, besides the extra footage of what Charles went through that I didn't know about or see before, was the actual rating system for zombies that Chad had come up with. It was literally like 6 dark going up steps. You got steps down here starting with 6 dark zombie, which means, you're Satan incarnate, all the way up to 6 light into heaven, where you're Jesus incarnate, I suppose. And so that is the rating system that they were using to rank people, whether or not they were zombies or not. And the very blasé, casual way that they spoke about that in text message and in conversation just boggled my mind. I mean, there was a absolute text conversation between Alex and Lori where she said she was working on Z, which assume means zombies, and he said he was proud of her because she was working on ridding the world of zombies, I suppose. And she said, we have bad news on our brother, and literally, older brother Adam was a zombie, and he goes, well, that's probably because of his interest in Charles and blah blah blah. And then they said, but there's also someone else, and he goes, who? Pops? Their father. Just casually throwing their father into the mix as a potential zombie. But no, turns out they were talking about Brandon, and hence that's why Brandon an attempt was made on his life. And then you had Colby's wife, Kelsey, was also named a dark zombie in this list that they had passed back and forth. And can you imagine the fear? Because she said after a lot of this happened and the kids were missing, she went back and reread a lot of these emails that had been forwarded to them by Charles and Adam. And she saw herself named as a dark zombie. Can you imagine the fear? Because what happens to all dark zombies in their bizarre little world? Thank you, Survival Farming. Thank you, dear. But can you imagine the fear when you see yourself named as a zombie, knowing what's happened to every other person they've called a zombie? That's like a hit list. That's literally like a hit list that was just circulating. And when she said she saw the originator was Chad Daybell, and she literally said, who the hell is Chad Daybell? Oh my God. So just the sheer craziness of all this. And the fact that Charles Vallow begged for help from the Chandler PD. He begged for help from anybody that would listen to him. And they took Lori's word. Lori's word. Because, let's face it, she's an attractive woman. Attractive women usually get believed. And he did sound, his story was a little kooky. And she wasn't talking about that. She was just talking about how he cheated and blah, blah, blah. I felt so sorry for Charles. I really did. He reached out for help so many times and got nothing until he was shot. And Ron, I did not know that in all my coverage of the shooting of Charles Vallow, did not know he had been shot twice. That Alex shot him once, and then when he was on the ground, he shot him again. I did not know that. And that was terrifying. Ugh. Just, ugh. Anyway, it's a good documentary. A great docuseries. I highly recommend that you check it out. I mean, it's got lots of information that is not, I don't think any YouTuber, any journalist that has covered this has covered. It still did not give any incentive onto what actually happened with the kids, what the actual cause of death was. I don't think we're going to know that until the trial, if we ever know it. But I was also very distressed when they were talking about the day that Melanie Gibb and David Warwick were at the Idaho apartments, and Alex brought in JJ looking very peaceful. I always assumed he was just asleep, and he died sometime after that. But according to this documentary, they were alluding to the fact he was probably already dead when Alex brought him in, and they were witness to a dead body being brought back into an apartment. Mind blown. The rating system conveniently gave them an excuse to eliminate everyone, preventing them from being together. Absolutely. Absolutely, Marby. Absolutely. I'm not sure. I would assume that she's been excommunicated from the LDS, but I honestly have never really posed that question to find out. So it'd be interesting to find out. I will dive into that and see if I can figure that out. I would assume she has been, just like a lot of radicals have been. They didn't. I thought it was scary when Alex finally admitted that he was their file guy. Yeah, I did it too. I think that's when he realized he had just been a useful fool in all this. Now, 𝐤𝐴𝐤, I mean, 𝐤𝐴𝐤 was not in the documentary like live, like they interviewed her. They did have some taped phone calls and taped police interrogations with her. But I still, 𝐤𝐴𝐤, I think she's still talking out of both sides of her mouth. I really do. I can't shake that assumption. But I think she probably genuinely did care about Alex after hearing some of the taped conversations I had not heard before. I think perhaps a lot of the marriages that happened, that's true too, Ron. Do we really know if he really said it? But again, I don't believe 𝐤𝐴𝐤 at all in anything. I think, like I said, she's out to save herself, her miserable self, and that's it. But maybe he did realize he was a useful idiot at some point. But I do believe a lot of their marriages were an arranged marriage, arranged by Chad and Lori for whatever purpose they had in being part of the 144,000. And so a lot of the other theories maybe behind them are incorrect. Let's see. 𝐞𝐞𝐭'𝐬 insinuated that his brother may have been killed for blurting out incriminating truths to his autism. Yeah, and I actually, Marvy, I actually kind of concur with that. I think that was probably one of the reasons. I think there was probably more than one reason the children were eliminated. I've always said that I think JJ was, kind of, there was some red flags there that he might, be more of a danger to them for that reason. Also, he was just a tremendous burden to care for, so that was slowing them down. And Tylee was very strong-willed. She knew it was all idiocy. I don't think she wanted any part of it, and I think that is probably a reason, for much the same reasons, in that JJ could innocently blurt out information they didn't want people to have. I think they perhaps also thought that Tylee might do it on purpose, because I can see her busting the hell out of that shit. Forgive me for cussing. What do you think of Alex's cause of death? I mean, we have to go with the blood clots in the lungs and the cardiovascular disease because he's been cremated. There's nothing to exhume. So we have to go from that. We do know that 𝐤𝐴𝐤 practiced in heavy metals, and there's certain heavy metals that can cause just those sorts of things. So that is a possibility, but I don't think we'll ever know. So we just have to go with what the autopsy said and go with blood clots in the lungs. Everybody was taking Melanie Gibbs' word for it, in my opinion. Oh yeah, she's definitely a liar. She is a liar and an opportunist, just like any of them. I think he couldn't calm down because he didn't. That's a very good point, Kat. I never really thought about that, but I definitely think that that's a possibility for sure. Tylee confronted them. Yep, I believe maybe she did. Or at least she talked to her mother, or, that sort of thing. But I'm sure she was killed because of her strong will. Absolutely. There was no way she was going to let JJ stay in that. She was going to get them both out, and unfortunately, they took them both out. Why not take both the children out at once? Yeah, I've had those very morbid thoughts, Ron, about why one and why Tylee and then JJ. Could it have been that they thought Tylee was the more immediate threat, not thinking that JJ would be much of a threat, and then as he got more and more unstable, with Tylee not being there, that they thought, okay, they both got to go, for sure. That's also a possibility, Mark. There's lots of, I think, different poisons that can cause blood clots. So, unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever know, but I don't believe it was 100% natural causes. I mean, he may have had some heart disease, but I don't think it was 100% natural causes at all. I would think they were going to go, just not then. Yep, it may have been kind of a rush job. It may have been that Tylee confronted them. They got rid of her, and then JJ went kind of wild because Tylee was gone, or maybe he saw it. It could be just anything, and he went a little wild, and that's how it happened. So it's just the whole thing is just, I don't know. And the fact that Lori was impersonating Charles in an effort and sending emails to Chad so that Tammy would not suspect he was having an affair. Just all kinds of crazy. It really was. And so it was just the perfect storm of them coming together. Absolutely. I did feel really sorry for Janice. I think when it hit her like a ton of bricks, what's happened, I think it hit her hard. And I will always, always feel bad for JJ's grandparents. Of all the people that are left, I have to feel the most sorry from them. I still think that the jury's out on Colby. I mean, I think he's a relatively normal guy, but being about the recent accusations, I don't know, but I do feel bad for the Woodcocks, of anybody that's left to deal with this stuff. And then after that would be Janice and Barry Cox. So, yeah, I think it was a very well done documentary. I think they covered a lot. They got to the heart of it. It was good to see some of the journalists with the East Idaho News. They have been working on it from the beginning, and that were actually asking the hard questions. I'm glad. Alex commented something about being too close to the poison on the tip of the spear. I think he was transporting out, and he knew he handled it carefully enough. I haven't been privy to those comments, Sassy Cat, but I'll definitely look into it. I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible. I don't put anything past anything with this group of people. This is just, I don't know. What I didn't know was that the kids were still not buried. Well, I know that I'm sure that they've done quite a bit of testing on it. I mean, hopefully they'll be laid to their final rest at some point, but I'm sure that has a lot to do with the investigation. I do like Colby's point of view, Ron. I mean, I do think that he legitimately loved his younger siblings. And I'm sure life was really hard for him and his family when all this broke. So I don't blame him for doing a documentary. That's not what I'm saying at all. Just the jury's still out on him, with the recent allegations. I have to say it that way. But yeah. I guess that absolutely that could have happened. I'll have to check into that. I don't recall those quotes, but I've read so much and listened to so much on this case. I will. I have checked when I saw that, there was a tie to Kauai, Hawaii, and that's Love Is One. They did that all that with the heavy metals. I fully have always suspected that heavy metal or some sort of poison had something to do with Alex's death. How's your book going, by the way, Ron? When can we see a first draft of it? But I do believe that Lori is legitimately insane. I don't think she's too insane to not stand trial, but I also think that she's insane. I think she legitimately believes the things that she believes. And just her whole demeanor when Kobe confronted her. Yeah, I really think she believes that she is who she thinks she is, and she has no guilt, no remorse, nothing about the lives that she's taken. And I don't think Chad does either. I really think they were delusional enough to believe that what they had predicted and what they were doing was the right thing to do. Now that I've seen that, they are very much narcissistic and sociopaths, Ron. Absolutely. Yeah, Lori, I agree with you. She has no remorse because I still don't think she thinks she's done anything wrong. Hey, Paula, how's everything in Tulsa? I don't think she thinks she has done anything wrong. She truly believes she's anointed of God and she was the designated zombie killer and that she did what she had to do to advance whatever their plan was to prepare for the second coming of Christ. I mean, 𝐞𝐞𝐭'𝐬 would be a mild terminology for that. I kind of beg to differ with you, though. We don't know the whole thing. It had some fraudulent schemes. Oh, absolutely. I think, but in that same respect, Ron, I think they almost also believe that any means justified their final end, and they felt no remorse for that. I think they needed that money to forward their own mission, and you know, it was a perfectly legitimate way to get money. The cult hadn't come, so they never said anything about the cult. Well, absolutely. I think Charles was definitely 100% financial transaction. He had to go. A, he was in his inner way because he was the ex-husband, and B, there was a lot of money to be made. I think Tammy was just good old-fashioned greed and get her out of the way for him to be with Lori. So those two might have been absolutely pure financial transactions, but I believe everyone else they tried to eliminate or did eliminate was definitely for the good of their cause. And it's just amazing. As you all know, I'm not a religious person myself, but I absolutely have a great respect for religion. I think religion brings a lot of good into the world, but as we can see with this, the wrong perception of it also brings a lot of evil into the world. And I think, Mormon doctrine had a lot to do with this. I don't think this was ever anybody in the LDS's church intent, but that was the building blocks for the religion that Chad Daybell was attempting to write and did write. And and as Ron is saying, a lot of the doctrine of the LDS church has changed as a result of this case. So, yeah, as religion changes over the years with different types of social attitudes. But like I said, I was really shocked by a lot of the stuff that I saw. And I truly believe that the raccoon that Chad was talking about was Tylee. And he only sent Tammy that message to show why there was a fresh grave in the pet cemetery. So they believe they are innocent because they believe they were the ones to kickstart the end times. Absolutely. And I would be so interested to find out their true opinion of when they missed their, prediction of July 2020 for the end of the world. What was their actual reaction to that, since they were so sure that everything they had done was for the truth and good of God. So, but I guess we'll never know. It also makes me wonder about this current state of their relationship. Ron, have you heard anything about that? The current state of their relationship? Are they still a happy, devoted couple, or are they, bending under the pressure? It really makes me wonder. But yeah. I mean, Lori had issues to begin with before she went off the deep end. But I think the stage was set. I think the stage was set once her, according to from what I saw in the documentary, according to that and other things that I've read, I really think her turning point was, the Ryan marriage. I think that kind of triggered something in her, and from there it was all downhill. So couldn't he find a better place to dispose of the bodies? I agree with you. I mean, okay, being that I do true crime and I read true crime, I study it, I can tell you that I could have done a better job of disposing of bodies than they ever thought about doing. If I hit them, you'd never find them. And I really think they could have done a much better job. Yes, from a practical way of speaking. I believe they moved on, don't ever be together, and they both know that I truly believe that. I truly believe that's probably the case, and they're both going to be out for themselves during the trial, which is going to make for a very interesting trial. I hope that is streamed some way. I'm still considering if it's not going to be streamed, I will be trying to find my way to Idaho to actually go and see if I can at least get someplace where I can watch it on closed circuit, because I would really love to cover that trial. And I'm going to cover that trial in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Absolutely. I agree with you, Paula. I think they both have an equal capacity for turning, but I think Chad would probably be the first one. I absolutely agree with you there. And it just, like I said, it all just seems so pointless. It just seems so pointless. But anyway, very good documentary. I will be back with a regular old review of the documentary as a video later this week. So stay tuned for that. If you have not seen Sins of Our Mother, go over to Netflix and watch it. It is a great documentary. It brings out a lot of things that I don't think anybody knew about. It really gives you more in depth. It shows that there were a lot of people in both the Vallow Cox families that knew something was going on and wanted to get rid of it and wanted to stop it, but unfortunately could not. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all this shakes out. Absolutely. There were a lot of people that were not covered at all in this docuseries. We did not hear anything about Jason Mao. There was very little about Brandon Boudreaux and Melanie Pawlowski. I mean, they were mentioned, but they weren't really played up like they would, that they have been in the past. So either they didn't want to be a part of it, or they just didn't feel there was anything pertinent there. So, but with that being said, if you haven't seen it, go over and watch it. It's definitely worth 3 hours of your time. And I will be back soon with an honest to God review of it. And with that being said, I'll be back soon with another video. Until next time, Keto and Krime.